Aloha and welcome to my channel. I'm Jay Dreamers. Today we're talking about sacred caves. This is going to be a really interesting thing to go over. We're specifically going to get into the Oracle of Delphi, and I'm actually going to share with you some videos I took today. This is an old world building that I saw while I was walking downtown today, and I went in. They were closed and everything. It's an old church, and the lady invited to give me a private tour of the building, and this is what it looks like on the inside. This is my video that I took. I put some music along with it and stuff. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. Can you hear me okay? What's up, everybody in the chat? So yeah, this is they have the stained glass windows and stuff. This is going to lead us into the subject of today. This is what got my mind stirring. What's up, Brandon in the chat, Seeking Yeshua, Jokey, Dan Bear, Logan Cook. Man, there's a lot of people. It's good to see you guys. So check this out. This is really interesting. They're going to turn the lights on for me here in just a second. There you go. Wow. So now the lights are turned on. You can see it better.
Wow,
and
so cool.
If there's any problem with the video, hopefully there won't be.
Do you know how old this place is? You know how old the building is?
Going on the computer right now. Now check this out. This is an old building, an old church building from like old world design, right? And it's going to lead up to showing you the organ. There's a huge, huge pipe organ in this building. The whole entire building is just so interesting.
There were originally...
And the lady that's talking in the background, she's one of the ladies that's a volunteer there. There you can see the orb and the cross held by Jesus, and he's holding up the peace sign or the two fingers up.
Grace was down on high speed.
This is really interesting stuff. I'm glad the video is working. Good, excellent.
Anyway, at some point,
the music is just some music that I matched up.
It was decided that Colorado Springs probably didn't need two Episcopal churches that.
So, anyways, she's talking about the two different churches that used to exist and how they split apart and became. Now look in the middle. Do you see that symbol right there in the middle? Do you see that? Hold on. Now I zoom into it. Do you see that sign right there? Or do you see the symbol of the person with their arms raised? We've talked about that symbol many times on my channel, and it's going to come into play today. And then you could see how they have the passageway that sort of meets at the top like that. On the ceiling, they have stars all over the place to represent the physical firmament above and the stars with it. I, however, don't know what this... There's another symbol
like
in
the
there.
Firmament, like there's stars up there and stuff.
I'll ask her about that too.
Oh, cool.
Dolphin Dreams. Hey, good to see you. Wow, dolphin actually came up in my research today. That's interesting. Now, these are just some other pictures. This is the organ.
And I think it's 9 times a year. There are what we call caber choir or caber concerts.
Those are the pipes.
And again, she left enough money that
from
we
the
do a free
organ
concert about 8-9 times
all
a year.
along the wall. The entire length of the wall is full of pipes.
So you've heard this all play?
It plays every Sunday.
No way. And it comes out of all these pipes?
Yes.
This is a pipe organ.
Yes.
So that's a part of it, that's a part
it's
of
very
it,
loud,
that's a part of it, and that's too?
This is new. And we call that the antiphonal.
Okay.
And it's been put in within the last 2 years. The antiphonal is rolling.
This is the new.
Now, that's the other part of the organ. So this entire building, the building structure is amazing.
Pretty impressive.
It is impressive.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So,
I'm still recording. Oh.
So there's the organ.
Wow. So okay. So that's where's the actual organ for those ones?
Well, those so
they'll
the
show you where
organ
the organ
itself is played from over here.
Oh, that's the organ right there.
Right.
Oh,
I don't want to talk over myself. Okay, so these structures were built in specific places.
It looks like Like where an operator from the 20s would sit when they're
Yes.
calling people or
And
something.
our organist.
And the acoustics would come into huge play, a huge factor. And
So
I know I've
this
heard a lot
right
of people
here,
talk about their ideas
When
of
they play it,
how the acoustics came into play with these old world buildings.
these that are lined up along the wall. And look at like the acoustics of just the building. I could imagine the reverberation and the deep.
Well,
No
and then
open
again,
windows
the
either.
technical, having some of it coming from the back.
Very
It's
interesting.
pretty incredible. In all honesty, sometimes it makes it a little difficult to pray.
I'll bet.
I'm
But
also
it's
just
really
gonna
interesting. That's come up a few times in some of my research.
I'm gonna allow the video to play for a
check
bit, and
this
then
out.
I'm gonna actually comment on it.
It's
We're gonna get into the presentation.
The he and the rho, or the X and the P.
The he and the rho. That's that symbol right there. You can see.
Somewhere in that window.
See that? It looks like a P and an X. That's actually the X is he or chi. And people pronounce it differently. And the rho. That's where we get the
I
word
love all the
hero.
stained glass
That's why that's on
windows.
the cross.
They're pretty amazing.
Here's some of the stained glass windows. Those windows were not, which is going to be discussed here in just a second. That's the lady's dog. I thought it was cute.
What is this?
That's our baptismal font. So we do baptisms back here.
There's the tet.
Oh, is there water inside there?
Not now, but there will be
Okay.
for baptism.
I got
As
you.
we've talked about, the tet, the circle with the X in the middle,
This is
representing
probably like a dove, I'm guessing.
the number 9, and the old world land that was
Look at
at
that.
the
look
North Pole.
Oh, there's a little church mouse on top, too.
Did you find it?
This one.
They had a little mouse up there.
Yeah.
Little stuff.
There's
Little
one
stuffed
in
animal.
the stained glass window somewhere. That's Mariana.
Wow, this is amazing. Hold on,
If it
I
was
wanna zoom
only
out
for
there.
musical
Look
entertainment
at that.
value,
These are
why
huge
put
pipe organs up here.
so much work into it? You know?
All of that.
I had a private tour. This was amazing. This really
shoots
made my
out.
day today.
Into the hall.
Look at that.
Amazing.
And there's millions of these types of places all around the
Got the
world.
ventilation in here.
Now
and
look
it's
at the
now part of our
ground.
ventilation system. Pipes fresh air in from outside.
She said that those little metal circles on the ground are actually openings. where
Well,
they
it
would-
was
she
fortunate
says
because
that
we
they would pipe in
to get
fresh
ventilation
air
up
from
to
the
code
outside.
standards.
Right, yeah, that is fortunate.
Yeah, it was financially very fortunate.
So they have all these little things
Why would they
on
do
the
that?
floor that are metal that act as ventilation, so
Yes.
like air comes up out of those?
Yes. There's
Strange. Stranger
I'll show
things,
it to you.
right?
We'll walk past it when we go out. There's a vent out here on the side that sucks the air in.
Nowadays,
And it's somewhat
they have a
heated in
vent
the
that
wintertime
sucks
and
air
blows
in
it up
order to
through
put it in there
these
because they don't have
from the
large
outside.
windows to ventilate.
And then,
Why would they
actually
forget
it goes
that?
out through a system
These
in the
places
tower.
are marvels.
And there's a fan at the top of the tower that
Yeah.
sucks it out.
There are no windows.
No,
I mean,
well,
there's-
there are.
There's stained glass windows.
Well, but you can open some of them.
Okay.
She was a cool
Yeah.
lady.
Okay, cool.
You can kind of see the difference in the framing in the left and the corners at the bottom on this
I
window.
do, yeah.
And so those can open.
So on the
but
very
there's not a lot of
bottom of
ventilation
those
for room
gigantic
the
windows,
size with.
there's
Right,
little tiny
right.
windows that you
400
can
people in it.
pop open a little bit.
How interesting.
But definitely not windows to meet the needs of such a large structure, right?
Wow. What a structure.
Yeah, we are truly blessed.
Marvels of building marvels, right? And yet
Man, I wish I could have.
they didn't know how to
I wish I could
ventilate.
time travel and
No.
like go back to like,
Something
and
else
make
was going
stuff
on.
like
Conditions
this.
were different.
Wouldn't it be cool?
Yeah.
We don't do art like this anymore.
No.
And this is art.
Yeah, it really is.
More than just architecture, it's art.
Why do you suppose there's a big mirror right here?
So that the organist can see the choir on this side.
Oh.
So if
okay.
you're the organist and you're sitting that way,
Yes.
then see he's got a
Oh,
The
mirror.
person who's
mirror, I
playing
see.
the organ sits
Well,
there.
he's got a mirror,
The choir sits across from
and then he
him,
looks
behind
back
him.
over here.
And he looks through the mirror to see the people behind him. It's really interesting how they set that up. Those are all pipes,
I love all of it.
all vibration devices.
What does this say? This place will give peace.
This place will give peace, right? I mean, you could internalize
And
that.
then, He's holding on to
Might be
the,
physical.
what is it, orb crux or something?
The orb.
That's so cool.
I was very thankful to get a private tour of
Everything
this
else
place.
is just kind of wooden, and then just, what is that, like cement?
I think it's plaster, but I didn't stick to it. That would be
Kyocera says they probably did that because Lucifer was a musician.
Okay, thank you so much.
That may be true, but a lot of the other angels were musicians as well. Not just like the devil or Lucifer.
Those are stars up there.
This is downtown Colorado Springs. See how they put the firmament? Now they're going to show a symbol that I'm unfamiliar with. So if you know what it is, feel free to chime in. Let me know what you think of that one.
You know
right
what
there.
that symbol is right there with like the sun around it or whatever that is?
Oh, no, I don't. Sorry.
It's an interesting one.
Here's a tapestry.
Look at that. Isn't that
It
interesting?
has a bunch of Arabic.
We're going to check out some really cool symbols here in a bit and make some connections.
How cool. I always wondered why they make the entryways like conical looking too.
It's supposed to remind you of a boat, now upside down, but Noah's Ark and that whole boat kind of safety.
I like it.
Yeah.
How cool.
All right, cool. That was the video. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that for a sec. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that. That was a little piece of my day. That's what I like to do with my time. When I see interesting things, I go explore. I go check it out right away. Instead of wondering, I want to go put my hand on it. I want to experience it. I want to be there. You know what I mean? I want to ask a lot of questions. So let's see. I'm going to get rid of that, and we're going to jump into a presentation. So this, before I start screen sharing, first, hello to everybody. Good to see you. It's good to see you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. So this experience of going to this older world type of construction and looking around and stuff had me thinking. I had so many questions, right? As I do whenever I see these things that obviously came from some other time, right? When things appeared to be different, conditions may have been different. That huge church. The lady was saying that you saw those metal plates at the bottom, and she said that's nowadays it's to help ventilate, right? And I'm like, why would they do that? Why? This structure is genius. This structure is amazing. It's beautiful. It's a work of art. Obviously, it took a certain level of intellect in order to make it. Why would they make it and then forget how, to ventilate the building? So they had to go in and put like air coming up from the bottom and stuff. That was a question that bothered me. So I went home, I paced about, I thought about it for quite some time. And then I started thinking about what is under these holy sites, right? Usually older churches, cathedrals, and things of that nature. And I remember oftentimes in the old world, underneath cathedrals and holy sites were catacombs. That's where they would bury their dead quite often. And then I started thinking, why would they do that, right? I mean, I have many theories about it. Why would they bury their dead down there? Directly underneath where everyone's assembling and, going to church or having service or praising God and singing and stuff, right? Why would they do that right on top of where they bury all their dead people, right? And then I started thinking, well, maybe it's not to ventilate, as in to let in oxygen. Maybe it's to let in something else, right? Maybe there is something under the earth that comes up and they wanted to make use of it. Because as you saw, the sign said this is a place of healing. I can't remember if that's word for word, but it said something like, this place is for healing, right? So you could internalize that, and you could say like, oh, I'm just here to feel better and, to heal and believe and all that wonderful stuff. Or it's physically, actually a place people went and it was sealed off and then it was filled up with something that contributes to the healing of people, right? Mind, body, and soul. Then I started thinking about the catacombs. And I also am going to get into the Oracle of Delphi and how the Oracle was able to commune with the gods, so to speak. Wild West. Hey, thanks. I'm glad you liked it. All right, cool. So let's do some screen sharing, and we're going to check out some stuff, starting with the catacombs. So let me tell you my theory, first off, right? The catacombs were built underneath. Hold on, I got to multitask. One sec. This one? Yep, that's the one. 140 people watching. Welcome to my channel, everybody. All right, we're going to go way back here. That looks good. All right, this is where we're gonna do some etymology, as I like to do, the study of the origin of words and their roots, right? Most of our words today are many different words that have actually just been all smashed together in order to create way bigger words. Our words are too big, in my opinion. And a long time ago, it was more simple. We used small root words, and then stacking root word upon root words, we got bigger words with prefixes and suffixes and other parts of word study like we do today. So I thought about this. I believe that inside of our world, that in the hollows and the recesses of our world, that there is energy, that the legends and the myths of old talk about every person that has gone down into the depths of the earth has experienced vitality. I mean, I quite often reference VRIL, right? As being the inner earth sun, the smoky god story references like the inner earth sun, or I mean, I don't really like the word sun too much, but it is a focal point of energy. It's an energetic source. Our world has a source. Our world has a spirit, so to speak. I mean, is that too much to believe, right? If we have spirits or a source energy, then the world itself stands to reason would also have a spirit. It's the spirit of the world. Now, from time to time, that spirit of the world retracts and the world starts to die, and there's famines, and there's bad times, and anger increases, and the world goes into what is known commonly as a fallen state. But after enough time, that life force, that chi that is within the world itself, expands and shoots out of every cavernous opening that reaches down into the inner depths of our world. And that energy shoots out and it leaves and it fills up the outer shell, which is where we are. And that's what I reference when I talk about the blue beam, right? I believe that it's blue because I believe that the main component of the ionized gas or plasma in the earth is oxygen. And oxygen, when it's ionized, becomes like a baby blue whitish color, right? So that's why I believe that they built these catacombs where they have them. I believe that there are openings within the earth where energy, spirit energy, soul energy, magic, whatever you would like to refer to it as, came out and built up in certain areas, right? And these would become sacred grottos, sacred caves, holy relic sites, holy places where people would travel to in order to become rejuvenated or to become more in tune or in touch with nature or God or goddesses or whatever it may be, right? There were places of strength. There were places of mystery. But I believe that the VRIL or the inner earth energy emanated from these holy sites, from various cave systems around the world, right? I like to focus mostly on the one at the North Pole, which I call the blue beam, the plasma volcano, the cave of saviors, etc. But many cave systems shoot out this blue beam energy, and those became sacred sites, holy sites, places where you could go to commune with the gods. And I also believe that they built catacombs on top of those places where they opened up towards the top. And the catacombs were there. Aren't they weird, right? Catacombs, like, I mean, just how we handle death is kind of strange to me. But I believe that in the ancient world, it was common knowledge that there was a resurrection of the dead. Now, that means zombies. That means dead people coming back to life. Suso, hey, thank you, man. I appreciate you. Let me get you, Suso. Suso's got a question, and he says, A question to be answered at a later date. Where would you go given the choice? North Pole, South Pole, deep inside the Earth? I would go deep inside the Earth. And then I would go North Pole. I mean, we have to go to the North Pole to go deep inside the Earth. But yeah, deep inside the Earth. Thanks, Suso. Appreciate you. All right. So let's break down catacombs. Okay. Let's get into this actual presentation. Cata. The word cata. A word forming element meaning down or downward. It also, by extension, means things like through, on, against, concerning, etc. Right? Kata. And it comes from the Proto-Indo-European word KMT. I thought that was really interesting too, because that is the ancient word for Egypt. Chemet, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but anyway. Kata means down, or kat, kamt, kamat. It means down, with, or along. So kata, down, and then comb. Let's figure out what comb means. Now, comb comes from the Proto-Indo-European root word meaning tooth or nail. A nail. So we've got peg, right? So the Greek word more closely means peg, bolt, or nail, which is exactly what we've been talking about, these descriptor words that are used to describe the beams of light, sky beams, however you want to see it. When it comes up out of the cave system, it shoots up into the sky. So they were seen as things that were attached to the ground, but shot up out of the ground. That's why they were symbolized by the Phoenician and early Hebrew writings as being pictorial form of a nail. It was a nail, it was a tent peg, it was a javelin, it was a spear, it is the sword of truth, the sword of destiny, it is the cross, the stauros, the beam, it is the beanstalk, it is the stalk or the stem of the tree of life, it is the feather of Mahat, it is so many different things. This VRIL energy, this energy that comes up out of the earth, the spirit energy of the earth itself. So, catacomb altogether could be translated as the peg, the beam. I'm just going to use the word beam. It's the exact same as all those other words. The beam underneath, right? The catacombs are related to the energy that is inside of the earth. It is earth energy, essentially. And I believe that they built the catacombs and placed their dead there and even set up stuff for them to have when they woke up, because they knew one day the dead would wake. They would, just like in Addams Family, when they play Wake the Dead, right? The dead would wake up. How do the dead wake up? Well, they become reinvigorated, right? Their soul energy is restored to them. Their body, instead of degrading, reverses and it starts to grow back, essentially. It starts to become alive again. Now, is that spirit going to be the individual spirit who actually died? I don't know. I have my own theories about that. But anyways, that's the word catacomb. So I was thinking about the catacombs. I was thinking about how the catacombs are oftentimes placed on top of these old holy sites or these cathedrals or these churches. And this is also where they say that the Christians found refuge whenever they were being persecuted and whatnot, right? Instead of Christian, I would just, in my mind, I was just thinking like the good people, okay? I'm not saying that Christians are all good or anything. I'm just saying that we have our own words that we use and our own perceptions, right? But there is a time that we go through collectively when there's war between those who find their root in the red plasma and those who find their root in the blue plasma. Right? It's the age-old good versus evil. The good people found refuge within the earth itself. And conditions may have changed in our world to allow the earth and the rock to become more malleable or more plastic-like, so that it can it's easily impressionable, I guess is what I'm trying to say. All right. So catacombs. Now let's check out let's check out tombs. I'll make this a bit bigger. Okay, so I was thinking about tombs and specifically sepulchers. Sepulcher is a house for the dead. And I thought about that too. Why do they build houses for dead people, right? I refuse to believe that it's just all symbolic and they just want to build you a nice physical house so that you can, and it's all for the people who survive so they feel better. Like the dead people have like a physical representation of a spiritual house when they die or whatever. Something didn't add up when it came to that. What does add up for me? Oh, snap. Okay, we're going to have to take a quick break. So I'm going to go ahead and play the intermission and we'll be back shortly. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you soon. Don't worry, we're coming right back and we have a lot to talk about. I'll see you in a minute.
Around the world men's thoughts will fly, quick as the twinkling of an eye, and waters shall great wonders do. How strange, and yet it shall come true. Beneath the water men shall walk, shall ride, shall sleep, shall even talk, and in the air men shall be seen in white and black and even green. For in those wondrous far-off days the women shall adopt a craze to dress like men in trousers wear, and to cut off their locks of hair. They'll ride astride with brazen brow as witches do. On broomsticks now there'll be a sign for all to see. Be sure that it will certain be. And love shall die and marriage cease, and nations wane and babes decrease, as wives shall fondle cats and dogs, and men live much the same as hogs. Pictures alive with movements free, boats like fishes beneath the sea. When men like birds shall scour the sky, then half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. Then half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. For those who live this century through, in fear and trembling this shall do. Flee to the mountains and the dens, to bog and forest and wild fens. For storm will rage and oceans roar, when Gabriel stands on sea and shore. And as he blows his wondrous horn, old worlds die and new be born. Fiery dragon will cross the sky 6 times before.
I'm so sorry about that. Oh my God. Thank you for bearing with me. Thank you for letting me know in the chat that I muted the mic. Oh my God. I had a quick personal thing I needed to attend to, so I'm back now. I was only just saying that, just to recap, I went and I was invited to take a tour of this old world church architecture, and I did. That brought up a lot of questions for me. And that took me to the catacombs, because that lady showed me the stuff that was on the ground, and she said it's for like pumping air up into it. And I refused to believe. You guys can hear me now, right? Just checking. Thanks, Suso. You didn't have to do that. Thank you, man. Can you guys hear me now? You should be able to. I'm so sorry when I do this. It's so embarrassing. All right, cool. Okay, so it looks like everybody can hear me. I'm just going to keep on rolling. All right, so there's these metal plates, and the lady was telling me that they were used to pump in fresh air into the building. And I thought to myself, this building, the intelligence required to make this structure is evident in the structure itself. So how could they have the genius to design some architecture like this, but totally forget to include something as simple as like windows or openings so that the air could get into the building itself, right? So I started thinking maybe the conditions were different. Maybe there was something different back then, or maybe those little metal plates or holes in the ground where they pumped in oxygen or whatever, allegedly, maybe those were used for something else. And today we use it to pump in air from outside because they don't have any in there. But maybe something else was pumped in, right? And maybe it's something that came up from underneath. And that got me thinking about the catacombs. The catacombs are the places, the little cities of the dead, usually underneath those holy sites, right? The theory is that they were buried there, not buried in the dirt, like just tossing a bunch of dirt on somebody, right? Jesus was not buried in the dirt, right? He was placed in a cave, right? Put a rock in front of it, put him in a cave. Why? Because if you come back to life physically, I mean, I'm not going to argue like if Jesus was physical when he came back to life or not, but people across time have believed in a physical resurrection. The dead physically coming back to life. And I call it the zombie apocalypse, but so that's the reason that they didn't just dig a hole and toss Jesus into it, which sounds kind of weird now that I say it. But the reason is because they expected him to come back to life. They expect everybody to come back to life. Many people, I shouldn't say. There's always exceptions, right? So I started thinking about tombs, right? And I have seen things like this. This is the tomb. This is a tomb of somebody. I don't know who it is. It's basically a house, right? Why go through all of this trouble if that person is not coming back to life? Why go through all of that's a lot of money and time and energy. And I don't buy this garbage of, oh, well, they were just really great. They were just really loved, or they were really honored. And so they built them this huge, they're dead. You know what I mean? Like, they're gone, man. Why would you do that? It doesn't make sense. Granted, many things in this world don't make sense, but that's a part of the fun, is to make it make sense. Make sense out of the senseless, right? So sometimes these are called mausoleums. I've also shared with you a video of a local mausoleum up here in the Colorado Rockies called the Shrine of the Sun, dedicated to the comedian, actor, philosopher Will Rogers. That was an interesting trip too. But you see, like this one behind me there, you've seen these when you go to graveyards and stuff, right? And I know I've asked myself many times, what is the purpose of that? And then many times, I'm drinking like Gatorade and 5 Hour Energy right now because I was so tired earlier. But many times I'm like, what? I wonder if they're locked on the inside, because clearly it makes sense that these are made in the expectancy that the dead will wake up and they'll want to have a house. They'll want to have a place to live. And all of their prior glory will be restored to them because they'll have their riches or their slaves right there. Wouldn't that suck if you were a slave? You came back to life and you're like, I'm free. I'm alive again. Hey, slave, tie my shoes, or, whatever. Like, that would suck. I'm just joking. But anyways, they're buried with their personal belongings and stuff because they would come back to life. It was common knowledge that people would come back to life one day. And that's a part of the plasma apocalypse. Here you can see the pyramid tomb of Khufu, right? And I believe that the pyramids themselves were built upon these cave sites. The Great Pyramid itself has a cave system known as the bottomless pit. Actually, many cave systems have what they affectionately call the bottomless pit, because they go down into the inner recesses of the earth. And there have been stories after story after story of people who have traversed those or even accidentally fallen into them when mining and stuff. And they have written stories and accounts and legends of, hey, here's what happens when I went deep inside of the earth itself. But sometimes they're called death houses, mausoleums, mortuary houses, tombs, shrines, etc. And these are places where they would put the dead people in the hopes that because they put them in a specific area, that they were more inclined to be restored to life, right? It was sort of reserved for the prestigious, essentially, at least after a time. So that brought me to mausoleums and death houses. The Taj Mahal behind me is a great example. Look at that amazing structure. That was built for a dead person. or the expectancy that the person would die and then be buried there, right? It is a house for somebody who is now dead. What good is a house for a dead person? No good, none, zero. It only serves to comfort us, the living, right? That's it. Or decoration or whatever it is. But it serves a purpose if the dead come back to life. Now it is a house for somebody. It is a preparation for restoral. That's what that is. Here's another one. They've got these all over the place. Some of these are like some of the largest buildings in the world sometimes, all over the place. Various countries and stuff. So those are mausoleums. Now let's talk about the Oracle of Delphi. That's one of the most famous cave oracles, or holy cave people. I don't know what to really label them as. But the Oracle of Delphi, here's a picture of the cave system there, or the opening to the cave. It's not, nothing special, just a little cave or whatever. Looks like many different caves that I've seen before. And it's this cave is called the Korykian Cave or Korykian Cave. Korykian. Interesting, because that root I've seen come up quite a lot in my life. I'm not going to get into the root of that word right now. I want to move on. But the Korykian Cave in Parnassus National Park, which is situated north of Delphi. The Oracle of Delphi, I'm just going to give you a heads up, just to get straight to the point, was a priestess, a woman who was in tune with nature, in touch with the gods, however you'd like to say it, and she would go into the recesses of the earth, into this cave system, and she would be able to prophesy. She would be able to translate what God is saying, or what the spirit of the world is saying, or access the Akashic records, right? There's so many different ways that different prophets describe their abilities and their actions, right? So anyways, they would have, unfortunately, the government caught on to these holy caves and stuff, and they would make these oracles their slaves, actually. They would employ them. They would say, hey, you go in there and you get in touch with God and let me know exactly what he says, right? So the Oracle of Delphi is an interesting one. Now check this out. Specifically, this cave, Korykian Cave, was named after the nymph Corycia. A nymph in ancient Greek folklore is a minor female nature deity. Different from Greek goddesses, nymphs are generally regarded as personifications of nature and are typically tied to a specific place or landform and are usually depicted as beautiful maidens. So, let me tie all that up in a nice bow, okay? Nymphs are plasma, small. They're like little fairies. If you can imagine a ball lightning, right? A little plasma ball or whatever, and the world is energetically charged, at the very least, inside the earth is going to be very energetically charged when the conditions in our world change. Right now, the energy is depleted, right? So it's hard to find these places because all that energy seeps back down into the earth over time. So these sacred and holy caves become regular caves over time, right? And the ones that are not, you're not allowed to go inside. They will block them off. They will board them up. They will keep you out. They will make up all kinds of stories to scare the crap out of you, or they will just straight up enforce it and say, no, you're not allowed to go down there for your own safety, essentially, right? But anyways, the nymphs. Nymphs are little balls of plasma. They are the sacred bees of old. They're symbolically portrayed in many different ways. I'll probably do a video on like Attack of the Killer Tomatoes and the Blob and stuff like that. Those are my favorite ones. But anyways, this cave is named after those nymphs. Those nymphs, those little sprites, those little balls of light were seen in these cave systems, right? They were also seen in Cycros Cave, or the Cave of Zeus, right? Which, by the way, Zeus was said to have visited this cave after he fought with Typhon. Now check this out. Speaking of, was it Typhon? Uno momento. Let me see what we got here. No. I'm not. I skip all the boring stuff. See, the problem is sometimes I highlight this stuff, but then it's like not highlighted when I get back to it. Let's see. Boring. Ah, here we go. So this is one of Strabo's writings. In his geography book, he writes, the whole of Parnassus, the mountain in Phokis, is esteemed as sacred to Apollon. Apollon or Apollyon or Apollo is the god of light. People attribute that light to being sunlight because that's the only major light source that they're familiar with, because they have forgotten about the inner world light source. They have forgotten about the external world light source. And all they see is that point of focus up there in the sky, and they say, oh, well, that must have been the ancient Apollo, right? I beg to differ. Although it did transfer over time, I think that they were, as a whole, talking about something else. When they talk about the light, I do not believe they're talking about sunlight. If anything, these people who keep these secrets detest sunlight. They don't like sunlight, so they're not going to have their main gods represent this light source that they hate. You know what I mean? Doesn't make sense. Let's see. So this whole entire mountain is esteemed as sacred to Apollo, since it has caves and other places that are held in honor and deemed holy. Why? Let's just stop right there and ask why. Why would all of these caves worldwide be called holy? You know, if we're taught caves are scary, basically, that's the impression that I'm getting, right? Caves are scary. Don't go cave diving. Don't go spelunking. Don't go check out caves. Stay safe up here on the outer part of the world or whatever. And yet, in the ancient texts, they talk about how these places are holy sites, that these are wonder-filled places. And it says, of these, the best known and most beautiful is Korikion. That is the cave of Delphi. Delph, by the way, somebody in the chat has the name dolphin. That's the root of dolphin. Korikion, a cave of the Nymphi, which is plural of nymph, bearing the same name as that in Cilicia in Asia Minor. Interesting. Hold on, I gotta make this way bigger. All right, 1 minute. I gotta find like what I was going to read to. Ah, here we go. This is interesting stuff. Okay, this is where it gets really good. Let's see. I want to check out. Hold on. Sorry about that. Man, I had everything highlighted. So we're going to check out, I'm looking for Zeus specifically. Okay, so in ancient times, I'm just going to read this to you. In ancient times, Korikian Cave was used as a sanctuary since at least 4000 BCE, which is very close to the time of the last great event, or the deluge, right? The world flooding and introducing the ocean, which is a remnant of the flood. It's just we've grown so used to it, we just call it the ocean. We don't call it the flood anymore. It says that the Korikian, that's also right around the time that major civilizations began to pop up around the world too. For example, the Mayan calendar gets really close to about that time. Enoch was alive right around that time. The Korikian cave also showed up in several other ancient Greek sources. Strabo in his geography writes, and then I just quoted that one. Let's see, we've also got, the cave is mentioned when Zeus fights the monster Typhon. Damn, hold on. Boom, Typhon, thank you. All right, so check this out. Zeus fights Typhon, okay? Zeus, the god of the thunderbolts, aka plasma, right? Lightning, plasma, it's all the same thing. Zeus fights Typhon, which is where we get the word typhoon, when you have a hurricane, a storm, a world storm. And Zeus is the one who wields the thunderbolts of the gods, right? He's the blue beam, essentially. And he fights Typhon, the typhoon, the world storm. Let's see what he says here. In this account, after Typhon steals Zeus's sinews, he places Zeus in the Korykian cave. Zeus represents that blue beam. That blue beam always has an appearance. When it makes an appearance and it saves everybody and it saves the day and it heals everybody and it helps everyone out and it fights off all the bad guys and stuff. But then it also has the opposite where it goes away. It leaves, it retracts, it goes back into a cave, always. And that's what they're saying happened to Zeus. After Typhon steals Zeus's sinews, he places Zeus in the Korykian cave, the cave of Delphi. However, Zeus pelted Typhon at a distance with thunderbolts and at close quarters struck him down with an adamantine sickle. Just like Wolverine. That's what blows my mind. An adamantine sickle, or hook. The hook and the vav are going to come into play here as well. And he fled and pursued him closely as far as Mount Cassius. Let's see what else we got. Seeing the monster sorely wounded, he grappled with him. Typhon twinned about him and gripped him in his coils. Let's see. All right, so that's not really what I was looking for. What else? Oh, the Korykian nymphs. The Korykian nymphs are a mythological group of 3 sisters who live on Mount Parnassus. Now we're talking about the quintessential nymphs, the main 3 beams of light. There's the central beam coming out of the main entrance or exit from the world itself, and then 2 coming from the anode and the cathode off to the sides of the island in the middle of the world. Together, those are 3 beams of light that shoot up, the 2 on the side acting as witnesses to the main beam, the central figure in the middle, the central pillar, or the rod god, as I affectionately like to call it sometimes. And they are daughters of a river god. The nymphs are, let's see, do I want to read this part? Not really. Pan. Pan is also a prominent figure in the Oracle of Delphi and the Korykian cave system. It says, after the Battle of Marathon, Pan replaces Hermes as the god most associated with the nymphs, including the nymphs in the Korykian cave, or Korykian. I don't know how to pronounce that exactly today. Due to his association, Pan became regularly worshipped at the cave. So people began to worship Pan there as well. Many of those who lived and worked around the mountain were hunters or shepherds, and Pan is associated with these professions, etc. Let's see, moving on, it says Pan's involvement in the mythic battle between Zeus and Typhon, which culminated in Typhon being banished to the Korykian cave. Oftentimes, these godlike and goddesses figures, they are banished into the caves. They're locked into the caves. They're put into the caves to sleep. They go on some journey into Hades or the inner earth, etc. Now let's check out what it says here about Zeus and the cave at Delphi. It says here that the Korykian cave plays a key role in the mythological battle between Zeus and Typhon. Typhon was a mythological beast, born of Earth and Tartarus, and he battled the gods, most notably Zeus. During their battle, Zeus and Typhon fought back and forth, Zeus throwing his lightning bolts, eventually injuring Typhon. Typhon had the cave guarded by the she-dragon Delphine. Still, however, Hermes and Aegipan were able to free Zeus, and he went on to defeat Typhon. All right, that part's kind of boring. I'm sorry. So, hold on. Let me zoom over here. Man, how do I do this? There we go. You can kind of see the image of Typhon behind me there. Once again, we have the Tree of Life image, or the Jesus on the cross image when he's holding out his arms like that. That's going to be key. Remember that was also on the stained glass window or whatever at that church that I showed you? All right. Man, I wish that it didn't delete all my highlighted stuff. All right, we're going to skip past that, and we're going to go straight to the Oracle of Delphi. Now, the Oracle of Delphi has a name. Believe it or not, she's not just, hey, what's up, Oracle of Delphi? How you doing today? No, I didn't call her that. Her name was Pythia. Pythia. Now, Pythia comes from the word Python. Let's read what it says here about her. She specifically served as the Oracle of Delphi and was known as the Oracle of Delphi. Her title was also historically glossed in English as the Pythoness, the female Python, essentially. The name Pythia was derived from Pytho, or Pytho, if you want to say it in cowboy, which in myth was the original name of Delphi. The original name of Delphi was Pytho. Delphi, being the area where the cave was, right, was named after the Pytho, which we, in turn, named the python, the snake, right? It's because it's all named after plasma and the plasma that exists there. These are places of power, right? These are what are known as the dragon lines, the ley lines, the snake lines, the python lines. I'm making that last part up, but it's all the same stuff, right? These are areas of energetic accumulation and focus in our world. We have them everywhere. They're all over the place. It's in our body. You have areas of energetic accumulation and focus, crossroads, right? And the earth has that too. Etymologically, the Greeks derived this place name from the verb poutein, to rot, which refers to the sickly sweet smell from the decomposing body of the monstrous python after she was slain by Apollo. Right? There is always, Apollo is going to be the one that holds the sword of truth. Pytho is going to be the red plasma that snakes in like a hydra and separates its heads and stuff like that, right? It's an age-old battle. Let's see what else we got here. Okay. I think that might be it. Let me gloss over it real quick. Sorry about the awkward silence. I just I had everything highlighted, but now it's all gone. Oh, this is interesting too. So the priestess, right? So basically the government enslaved a woman who was in tune with nature, made her go in. I mean, I don't want to say enslaved as in forced because I don't know for a fact, but many of you are slaves right now. I'm a slave, right? And it's like, it's almost voluntary, right? Because we don't know any other way to be. But it says here, since the first operation of the Oracle of the Temple of Delphi, it was believed that the god lived within a laurel. Remember when we broke down Back to the Future, we talked about this word right here being directly related to the DeLorean. And the origin of the word DeLorean, the laurel, or of the laurels, from the garden, essentially, right? So it was believed that the god lived within a laurel, the holy plant, and gave oracles to the future, or for the future, with the rustling of the leaves. Okay. Also, it's related to the word Delos. And DeLorean is also directly related to Delos too. I think I have that. We're going to talk about it too. All right. Let's see. Anything else? Damn, I wish it didn't get rid of all of the highlighted stuff. Oh, this is interesting too. I did have this highlighted. Why is it like, is it better like that? No. I'm super sorry. I don't know how to scooch it over. Wait, do I? I'm not going to mess with it. I'm just going to read it. All right. Inscribed on a column in the pronaos, or the forecourt of the temple, were an enigmatic letter E. Nah. Dang, you can't see that. Hold on. Screen share. I'm going to fix it real quick. Boom. There we go. We'll make it a bit smaller. All right, cool. So it says here, basically outside of the Oracle of Delphi, there was a temple for Apollo, right? And on that temple, they had this huge golden letter E. It's called Epsilon in Greek. Nobody knows. Most people don't know why they have, what does that letter E stand for? And many people guess, just like they try to guess at the Freemasonic G. That nobody really knows for sure, except for those who know what it means or what it stands for, right? So it says here, inscribed on a column, a pole, a post, a reed, a Ra, like, you know what I mean? Like every time. I feel like that's really important. Inscribed on a column in the pronaos, or the forecourt of the temple, was an enigmatic or mysterious letter E and 3 maxims. Maxims are like ultimate sayings, essentially. Number 1, know thyself. Number 2, nothing to excess. So everything in moderation, essentially. Nothing in excess. And number 3, surety brings ruin. Or you could also say, make a pledge and mischief is nigh. I want to talk about that one as well real quick. Surety brings ruin. For example, when you say, oh, I know this. Or if you make absolute statements, which I discourage on my channel, go make absolute statements other places. That's fine. But here, like, I understand if you start off and you're like, oh, space is fake, or, some sort of absolute statement. This right here, this maxim of old is saying that's not a good idea to do. Surety, or being totally sure of something and not leaving room for growth, not leaving room for more of the picture to be seen, brings ruin. When people are totally convinced of something, 100% sure, basically. Or they said, make a pledge and mischief is nigh, right? When you stand your ground, that means you're not moving anymore. So I love those 3 things. Now I want to talk about this mysterious, enigmatic letter E, or Epsilon. This is really interesting. Let's see what they say here. It says, these seem to have played an important part in the temple ritual. According to Plutarch's essay on the meaning of the E at Delphi, the only literary source for the E inscription, there have been various interpretations of this letter. In ancient times, the origin of these phrases was attributed to one or more of the 7 sages of Greece. So let me rephrase that in layman's terms. They didn't know what it meant, right? Even Plutarch, somebody who was a well-known historian at the time, he wrote about it, and he had no idea what it even meant. I believe I know. I believe I have, well, I don't want to say I know. Surety brings ruin, right? I have a better idea of what it may have implied, and we're going to talk about that. Let's see, what else? This is a really interesting study. Okay, I'm not going to read all of this, and I'm so sorry in advance that all of my highlighted stuff is now gone. But it's okay, we're going to press on. Oh, fumes and vapors. Let's talk about that, because that one also does not sit well with me, okay? The Jigger's in the chat. Look at you. What's up, man? Hey, good to see you too. All right. Sorry I'm not super in the chat right now, but there's a lot of stuff on my computer right now. All right, so I'm going to get rid of that web page. Now, it talks about fumes and vapors. So this Oracle of Delphi, the Pythoness, right? She would go down into the recesses of the earth, and then she would have very accurate predictions, prophecies, advice, etc. that came from somewhere other than herself, right? Now, people tried to guess, how does this happen? How, like they were trying to be scientific about it and try to figure it out, right? So most people, after those days, started talking about how they believed that there was like fumes and vapors, like maybe there's some sort of gases down there, because the earth does release gases, right? So they say there have been many attempts to find a scientific explanation for Pythia's inspiration. However, most commonly these refer to an observation made by Plutarch, who presided as high priest at Delphi for several years, and he stated that her oracular or oracle powers appeared to be associated with vapors from the Kerna spring waters that flowed under the temple. So he doesn't know, he's just guessing, right? Plutarch is saying maybe these waters are giving off vapors or something like that. And it's interesting that they had waters down there as well. And they believe basically that she's down there sniffing hallucinogenic gases. I don't think so. I'm not saying it's impossible. I believe it's possible. But I also believe that the earth has knowledge in itself. contained within the spirit is a knowledge that connects everything. It's how things like telepathy are possible. That's how telepathy works, is by a sharing of spirit. It's a sharing of energy, right? And when it's very strong, you can just will it. You can focus it. You can send your energy out and you can share with other people. When it's very weak, you need to touch. You need to physically touch so that your spirit energy can transfer, essentially. And then when it's even weaker, people forget about it and they lose touch with it and they don't have that ability anymore, or it is latent within their body. Okay, now let's get to this mysterious letter E that was written on the temple of Apollo at the Oracle of Delphi. Also the word Delos is related to Delphi. So let's talk about Del. I've already broken down Del in the Back to the Future video that I did, but let's recap real quick. Essentially, it comes from the Proto-Indo-European root word diu, kind of like Mountain Dew. Same exact word, right? Diu. Diu, which means heaven, sky, or more specifically, to shine. You see that? So those of us who have the shine have an extra strong spirit, you could say, right? Which implies that there are those out there who don't have a strong spirit. They have weak spirits. They have just enough energy to run the basic functions of the body, which is why they love to be told and instructed what to do. They like to be given their purpose instead of defining their own purpose. So that's the origin of the word delos. So del comes from diu, which means to shine. Os just means strong. So Delos, which is a mythic island, which basically is the island at the North Pole, is the place of the shining light. Delos means strong shine, essentially, or strong light, or great light, or powerful light, right? It is the fountain of youth. It is springing forth from the Garden of Eden. It is the tree of life. It's the world tree, just like we talk about so often, right? That's Delos, and it's directly related to Delphi, Delphic, dolphin, right? Dolph Lundgren. I mean, like, all those things. Del. What does del mean? Well, del is an Old English word that comes from del, which means hollow, or also the word dale, like Chip and Dale. But it means hollow. So del implies a depression in the earth, a cave, right? A hollow part of the cave is a del, which is also the name of a singer who also sings things like Let the Sky Fall, stuff like that. It's all connected. All right, let's talk about this mysterious letter E, right? Let me give you an example, actually. Do I have an example? Let's type one in real quick. Oh, isn't that cool? I made that my background. All right, let's see. Delphic E coin. We're going to look up a coin example first. All right, boom. So you see this right here? See how it's got the letter E in between those columns on this ancient coin? That is what they're talking about. They included the mysterious letter E. Nobody knows what it's for, but they know to put it there, right? And it's mysterious. Its origins have been forgotten. It's known in Greek as the Epsilon, not to be confused with E, the letter, or Cyrillic. Let's see. Let's get into E, Epsilon. So in the Greek alphabet, we've got alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and then epsilon, right? This is going to get interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if Spaceballs just came to mind, you're in good company. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 5th number. 5 is epsilon. This is going to get super interesting. Hold on to your seats. I didn't really have anything else to share about the epsilon on that web page, so let's move forward. What is this one? Now we're going to compare that, the ancient Greek alphabet, or the alphabet, or the alpha beta. That's where the word alphabet comes from. It's the first 2 letters in said alphabet, right? That's why we say alpha and bet, or bait, which is B. The Phoenician alphabet. Now, this is the oldest alphabet that I have found personally in my research and studies. I know some people make arguments for cuneiform and some other scripts, but I believe that those are symbols that came from pictures. I believe the original writings, the oldest writings, were picture form. So the pictures, the alphabet itself is glyphs, essentially. The pictures were turned into shorthand glyphs over time, right? So every single one of our letters represents a picture in the real world, which is a symbol which carries with it everything that is symbolic about that image, right? And when you put many of those symbols together, it builds context for a message. So this one's a little bit harder to see. There you go. So this is the Phoenician script. They read right from left. So over here, if you turn your head sideways, you can see it looks like the letter A. That is alpha in Greek, or aleph in Hebrew, or A in English. So aleph, bet, gimel. Remember, gimel is like a foot. It's like a crooked, like a leg and a foot. Aleph, bet, gimel, dalet, hey. This is number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now in Phoenician, this is the letter hey. That's how it's pronounced. Like, hey, how's it going? It's the same exact thing, right? Sometimes people write it he, like H-E. This is getting important because if you flip it around, it looks just like the letter E, except for it's backwards. Why is it backwards? Because originally the letter E could go either direction, and sometimes it went both. But this is interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Aleph, bet, gemel, dalet, hey. And then vav is right after that. You can see it's sort of a hook. But let's focus on the hey symbolism. Let's take a look at that letter hey, because it is the Phoenician equivalent of epsilon. It is where epsilon came from. That's what I'm saying. All right, let's take a look at hey. Now, this is what it looks like in modern Hebrew, just to the side of my head here. It's a word picture for like a house that has a little opening making a window, right? It does not represent a window, I believe. I believe that window is an extension, an implication of the original word picture. So in Hebrew, here you can see this is I mean in the Phoenician, this is what it sort of looked like. And then this is the modern Hebrew, this is the Aramaic, this is the Syriac, the Arabic, etc., and so on and so forth, right? The position number is 5. Hey is 5. Remember how we keep talking about and mentioning that 555 is really an occult way of saying 666, because the 5s are V's in Roman numerals. When you have 3 V's, they're 3 Vavs. 3 Vavs is 666, right? I'm not going to get into the 666 symbolism right now, because there's also the whole conversation about 616, etc. But 555 is hey, 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 which also is pronounced ho, ho, ho. Or if you remember Fat Albert from a long time ago, he goes, hey, 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 right? This is why you hear that so often. It is 555, exactly how they show you in the movies when they're making a phone call. It's the same exact thing. So the hey, let's move on a bit. Did I have anything highlighted? Oh, yes, I did. Oh, check this out. So here's some ancient picture forms of hey, the letter, right? Which is the letter E, or epsilon, which is the mysterious letter E, or the Mr. E, the mystery, right? This is what it looked like in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics. It looked like a strand of DNA, essentially, or what I would call plasma, right? That's how plasma moves. It loops, it twists around like that. Now look underneath that. You see this picture? Remember how I showed you I was in that church and it showed the picture of the guy holding his arms up just like that? And this is the reason why people do that. It's the reason why people hold their arms up and they pray and they put their arms up into the sky. Because the quintessential root of this, if we go all the way back to the origin, is that is a plasma discharge formation, discharging from the earth itself, reaching up into the sky and branching outward. Now look at this. Hilul, jubilation. Compare to these are some other glyphs. You see those? So oftentimes it was a line that shot up and then it sort of branched out like that. Look at the one in the middle. This right here is what we're really focusing on, because that turned sideways is the letter E, and that's how that evolved into the letter E. Those letters sort of twisted over time, right? As we go from age to age, our writing changes and reflects the various ages that we've been through. For example, before the last major shift, people were writing from right to left because they were left-handed. because they were right-brained. But then there was a shift in that, and people became more left-brained. And during the neutral point, people would write up and down and stuff. But then after that shift, they started writing right to left and became more right-handed. I mean, left to right and became right-handed, right? All right, so this is the psi symbol. For example, if you are, this is why the weapon, a psi, is called that. If you're a 21 Pilots fan, I have talked about them quite a lot recently. This is one of their new symbols that they use, and people are like, oh, I wonder what it represents. This is the mysterious letter E. This is the epsilon. This is the letter He. Now, He, as a word picture, remember I said that some people thought it meant window. The reason that they thought it meant window is because they used the word picture of a window, an open window, because air would pass through. It's the movement of the ether or the air itself. And that is what He really represents. Spirit or plasma, you might say. I say. So that is the He. That is the mystery of the letter He, of the epsilon. Also, it's in the name of God in Judaism. Or, they don't say the name of God in Judaism. But they say Hashem, which starts with the letter He. But we have in Hebrew, this is the Hebrew alphabet and sort of how it, like this is Proto-Sinaitic, this is Phoenician, this is ancient Greek, this is ancient Latin. As you can see, these letters evolved. They just slowly changed over time from picture form, like all of these pictures. As you can see, the picture form here, let's go ahead and, can I zoom in on that? Sure can. Ish. Not really. Okay, so forget that idea. All right, anyways, you can see the dude with his arms up into the air, right? Not just a stick figure, not his arms down like we would normally draw a stick figure, but a stick figure with the arms up into the air, right? That is the squatter man symbol of the plasma that shoots up out of Mount Meru, the plasma volcano. And it means He. It means spirit. It means the breath of God. It means wind. It means the breath of life. It is the thing that is responsible for life, essentially. And that's why it was written on the temple of Apollo. It represents spirit to the great spirit, Apollo, the spirit of light. Not sunlight, but life-giving light, which is the light of the world, the world's light. The world emits light, right? We don't need the sunlight. It's nice and everything, you know what I mean? But anyways, that's He. Also, here's the name for God, or Yahweh at least, written in the ancient Phoenician on top. This is modern Hebrew here. That's the letter Yud. This is He. That's the window. See the window there? But this up here, they say behold, okay? That's a loose translation. But as you can see, it's a stick figure with his arms up in the air, doing the peace sign, doing the don't shoot me, doing the I come in peace, doing the I'm a good guy, right? That's what that is from. All right, let me clear up some space on the computer here. My poor computer is running out of memory, so I'm going to have to do some work on it pretty soon. This is another example. I thought this was a really good one of some paleopictographs, which is just ancient Phoenician writing. Let's go over it together real quick. This is the head of an ox. Now, I believe personally that before glyphs came about and became popular or common, that they drew the entire ox. They drew the whole head, the body, and everything. But over time, when people started writing more and more and more, that became too time-consuming. So they did shorthand, right? They would draw the head of the ox. That gives us Aleph. That gives us the symbol for strength and leadership and stuff like that. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, which is the Nike swoosh, the foot. Dalet, and then He. You can see He over there. It looks like a ghost. Looks just like a ghost. It's like it's floating around with a little spirit tail. Then we've got Vav over here. That's the hook. That's the blue beam that shoots up. It's the same exact type of deal. And then we've got Zayin, Het, Tet, Yod, which is like an arm. Kaf, Lamed. This is Mem. It looks like the letter M. Mem, right? It's just waters. Nun. This is, I believe, like this is... Now, some people say this is, like the seed of life or whatnot. I believe that it's actually a little further back than that. I believe this is like a plasma ball with a trail coming off of it. That's one of my interpretations. Mem nun samek ayin, which is an I. That's where we get the word I from, is the ayin, or the, anyways, ayin, let's see, where was I? Mem nun samek ayin pe, which is like a mouth. Tzadi, kof, resh, shin, and tav. Tav is the mark. It's a marker. It's the cross, etc. So I just want to share those with you. Now this right here is the Delphic Epsilon. So, although I showed you the image of the coin where they draw a regular E, just like this, when you type in Delphic Epsilon, you get an altogether different symbol, which is this one right here. Now, does this not look, does this? I hate when people do that. It's so confusing. Does this look to you like a backwards E and a forwards E? Yes, it does. I mean, it's there, right? It's evident. And then there's a line between the two. This is also the DC symbolism. When you see DC all over the place and you wonder why they're putting the letters DC together so often, right, where one curve meets another curve, this is also shown in the DC symbolism, which is the two different worlds crashing into each other, etc. But if you turn it sideways, it is the Psi. It is the squatter man holding up the world. It is Atlas. It is Maui. It is Jesus. It is so many different savior type figures and Christ-like figures and gods and goddesses. Let me just check on the live stream because I have not been in the chat. What's up, 250 people? Good to see you guys. All right, so let's go back. So we talked about the Phoenician lettering. We talked about the letter He, which is the fifth letter, and how Hey, Hey, Hey is equal to Ho, 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 which is why Santa says that, etc. We talked about the glyph of the man with his hands up, right? The man with the hands up. That's why we do that, because we emulate the cosmic God that we see in the sky, the God of light. We talked about the He and the paleo versus the epsilon and the modern letter E. As you can see, it's clearly evident that that is where the letter E comes from. We talked about the psi symbolism from 21 Pilots. I'm also doing a recap for myself so I can get back on track here. We talked about the Delphic Epsilon, which is interesting symbolism as well. And then that reminds me of this that I've seen. I think I saw this as like a tattoo or something on the Imagine Dragons singer. Also, there's a kid drawing it in one of their videos, right? It is the exact same symbol. It is the backwards E and the forwards E together, creating an unfinished pyramid that has an opening that goes right down the middle of it, which is Mount Meru, which is a sacred cave, which is the cave of saviors, etc. And they talk about this all the time in their music. That's why it's one of my favorite bands. They're very occult, I guess you could say. Hey, look. This is one of their symbols. Can you see that behind me? That's one of their symbols there. Somebody getting sucked up into the sky and eaten by Kronos. I love that. That's so cool. Anyways, that's Imagine Dragons symbolism. Also, it's the root for the Atari symbol as well, as you may have seen, right? The plasma volcano, the unfinished pyramid, and the blue beam within the world shooting up through the middle. Also, it's the root of Atari is tar, which is where we get the root for Tartarus, which is inside of the earth itself, or Tartaria, which is really Tat-aria, right? Tot-aria from the tet, right? Was that it? Man, that went by fast. Really? That was it? Man, well, maybe I drank too much of that 5-hour energy, I guess. What else do we got here? Secrets of Ancient Greece. Yeah, I kind of want to read this real quick because this was an interesting article too. So let's check this out just real quick here, and then I'm going to jump in the chat for a bit. How do we make it smaller? One side, the other side. Here we go. All right, let's read this together. According to the most popular theory, the epsilon letter as a symbol is directly related to the Delphic solar mysticism, the initiation of the man into the light. See, that's what I'm talking about. When they talk about the light and you hear all of this esoteric allusions to the light and stepping into light and being initiated into the light, etc. It is not talking about sunlight that covers everybody and all their average people and all the regular people and stuff. They're talking about the hidden light, the secret light, the esoteric and arcane and mysterious and mystical and amazing light. I love it. The initiation of man into the light. Its placement on the pediment of the Delphic temple of Apollo, the god of light. They say solar worship. I don't know. I understand how they got to that, but I think there's more to that story. Indicates man's eternal relationship with the light, thus perfection. The letter E has 3 parallel lines making the union of body, mind, and soul, highlighting the trinity of human nature. The letter is the 5th number in the Greek alphabet, or alphabet, with the number 5 symbolizing the 5 elements needed for life. Earth, fire, wind, water, heart. Go planet. I'm sorry, I have to do that. It's back to my childhood. But yeah, instead of heart, actually, back on the Captain Planet show, that was ether. That's what heart is. Heart is not the organ in your body. Heart comes from the word lev, which is more like mind, actually. It's more like spirit mentality, I would say. That's a different story, though. So earth, air, fire, water, and ether. What else do we got here? The Delphic Epsilon was placed at the top. I'm glad you guys are having a good time. The Delphic Epsilon was placed at the top of the pediment of the Temple of Apollo, right at its center. At the lower left-hand corner, there was an inscription, "Know thyself," in Greek. You may remember that from the movie The Matrix. If you're not into studying ancient history and stuff, at least you've seen that on The Matrix. When Neo walks into the kitchen and the Oracle, it's literally like, you're not the one, but he really is the one, and he might not be. Anyways, it's a long story. But it says "Know thyself" in the Oracle's kitchen, if you were paying attention. On the lower right-hand corner, there was the inscription that meant "nothing in excess." I teach this to my son all of the time. There's certain things that I repeat to him often because he's just a little guy right now, and some, people forget. We forget so much stuff. So I say it often to him. I don't say nothing in excess, but I say everything in moderation, right? Too much of anything is not good, right? These are known as Delphic commandments. Now, this is interesting too, right? I can't imagine so many thousands of years ago that people saw this and then they were outraged, right? They're like, oh, some mystical secret group is telling us how to live our lives, giving us these commandments written on stone. Let's blow it up. I'm venting a little bit right now, if you've been following my channel. But anyways, these ones tended to be acceptable. These are known as the Delphic commandments, and E was presiding over them. E was presiding over them. There were 3 letters of E in total. The oldest one was made of wood, blah, blah, blah. E of the wise men. Okay, let me read this. There were 3 letters of E in total. The oldest one was made of wood and is referred to as the E of the wise men. That kind of reminds me of like directional symbolism too, because they use the letter E to represent east. And east, if you listen to 21 Pilots, is up. East is up. I love that song. East is up. Like my boy, I teach him this kind of stuff too, right? Or I talk to him about it, and he'll just randomly be like, "Hey, Dad, East is up." Or he'll be like, "Where's East?" And I'll be like, "East is up." I'm careless when I hear this on the low. I'm fearless when I hear this on the low. Because it's a secret. These are things that not everybody knows about, and most people would not believe if they heard it. Going on, it says, because it was dedicated by either Solon, one of the 7 wise men of ancient Greece, or by all of the wise men. The second E was bronze, and it was commissioned by the Athenians. The third E is known as the golden E, since it was made of pure gold, dedicated to the god Apollo. See, that's another thing. Like, what does the element of gold have to do with sunlight, right? They don't work that great together, but the element of gold works really good with another kind of light, electricity. Anyways, let's see what else we got here. So these are some pictures of the archaeological site of Delphi. Many people have been there. And basically the article just goes on to say that the letter E remains a mystery. Not everybody understands what it's about. We're going to go ahead and take this off of the screen now. I would love to join you fine people and say what's up for a bit. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Excuse me. I really didn't know what I wanted to talk about today. I know I did want to talk about some stuff, but it's interesting how life works, right? I was just running some errands, minding my business downtown, and I happened to look over and see that amazing structure, and I decided to explore, to put one foot in front of another and go towards the thing that I'm interested in. And because I did that, it was actually closed. It was all closed off, and the lady that invited me, she was sitting off to the side talking to somebody or whatever, and I was like, hey, do you know if the church is open or whatever? And they're like, oh, no, it's not. She finished talking or having her meeting with whoever it was, and then she actually caught up to me walking down the sidewalk. I was looking at other structures, and she was like, hey, did you still want to look? I'll be happy to give you a tour or whatever. And I'm like, wow, this is great. She said that she wasn't able to take me up into the tower, which would have been really cool, but I might go back and check out their tower sometime. So what did you guys think of the presentation? What did you learn that you did not know previously? Or what was helpful to you on your path? What was helpful for you on your journey? Genie Bottle. Hold on, let me put the comments up real quick. The chat comments. Oh, yeah, the 5-hour energy is definitely working. I mix it with Gatorade. It's like, works pretty good. Sorry about all the technical difficulties as well. And thank you to all of the people who are very kind and say things like, don't apologize, you're awesome and stuff. Thank you. I super appreciate it. I will take that with a grain of salt, and I will work on my confidence. How about that? That's my promise to you. Let's see. We got Genie Bottle says, my nickname was E as a child due to 2 kids with the same name. So everyone knew me as E for years. Now my middle name. Isn't that interesting how these things come back around? Ravel to Expand says, J-Dreamers, it's cool that there was a Globus Cruciger there. Yes. I was trying to remember the exact wording for it. I know it's globe and cross. You know what I mean? I'm like, hey, it's the globe cross. Do you know what that is? I'm sure they don't know exactly what it is or what it represents or what it stands for, but it was cool to see there. Oh, thank you, Faith. I appreciate you. Akeem makes a keen observation. Phoenicians equals phonetics. That is true. That's where that comes from. Alex Hoyle says, I'm glad that you went to explore, Jay. I've been watching exploration videos of abandoned buildings and looking into ancient tunnels. I'm telling you, this is an interesting topic. The world energy that exists inside, and coming to the realization and acceptance that we live in the world, in our atmosphere and our environment at this time is in a dwindling state, which means it must be restored. That's the good news. That's what we have to look forward to. It will be restored. Everything will be, balance will prevail. Sharon Elbow says, Jay, I learned not to be late. I missed it and I'll watch later. Okay. Yin Caples says, Jay, I love how you turn everything positive. Oh, good. Oh, good. That makes me happy to hear. It really does. God, the world is so negative, and sometimes I'm extremely empathetic. To the point where I feel like Professor X inside of Cerebro sometimes. I feel like I can pick up on and sense the energies of all of the humans all at once sometimes. And for me, it becomes very overwhelming at sometimes. And it's like I share in those emotions and I don't want to. It's hard to explain. Anne-Marie Penton. Hey, let me see what you said. Anne-Marie says, the extensive connections you open me up to always make me slap my knee and say, dang. Thank you for all of the work that you put into sharing knowledge with us. I'm grateful. You're very welcome. Thank you, Anne-Marie. Alex Hoyle says, I have really enjoyed this live stream. Right on, connecting more dots. Excellent. Yes. So, Heather, I'm so sorry. I'm also working on just myself and how I interact with everybody. Heather says, I always learn something new in these chats. Thank you, J Dreamers. You're very welcome, Heather. Thank you too. All right. Yes, interesting stuff. I've always wondered about the Oracle of Delphi. The mainstream explanations of these things don't make sense to me. You know what I mean? Like mainstream academics implies to young, impressionable minds that all of the rock carvings that we see worldwide, or rock paintings or petroglyphs, were mostly done under some sort of drunken stupefaction. Like everybody was high, essentially. They all went into a cave and got high, and so they all drew the same pictures and they all drew the same glyphs and stuff like that. I don't buy that. You know what I mean? Somebody builds and erects and draws out and plans out and funds a massive, huge cathedral or structure, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, how are we going to get air inside of here? No, I don't think so. I wonder if they wanted to purposefully keep air out because the conditions of the atmosphere or the air were maybe not favorable. Or maybe there was Fantazoids running around. I don't know. You know what I mean? They don't want big old windows for them to jump through, right? There's all kinds of different alternative explanations. But the mainstream ones never satisfy me, right? Like, whoa, look at that strange rock formation. How was that made? Easy. Millions of years of wind and rain sculpted that. What about the hill right next to it? How come it doesn't look just like that? Millions of years of wind and rain chose not to touch that particular hill. You know what I mean? Like, these things don't add up, so they deserve questioning. And I'm up for the challenge. Kabar says, thank you, you rock. Hey, thank you too. Oh, that's cool. I like your little picture there. Nagagato says, Jay, it's good to see you. Enjoy the celebrity life. You're the star. I'm not a celebrity. Maybe to you or somebody else, but nah, I'm not a celebrity. I'm just happy. That's all. And I like being happy. Let's see. Taylor Michael Thompson says, Jay, dude, super awesome show. I love learning more about gods and symbolism, where our words come from. Pure awesomeness, my dude. Thank you. Super appreciate it. All right, last one. Alex Hoyle says they're taxing our air now while they ride on their jet plane, so you never know. All right, cool. Well, hey, I had a good time. I'm probably going to rewatch this particular episode quite a few times because there's a lot of really good information in here. Remember how I was sharing the other day that like sometimes I blow my own mind, and I'm not trying to brag or anything. I'm being very honest. I'm being very I'm sharing my internal thoughts with you. I get freaked out sometimes at the revelations that come to me. And I try not to let it freak me out. And it's very interesting to me. Anyway, I'm going to end on that note. Leave lots of comments. Leave lots of comments about your connections. I would love to see more. I believe that this has a lot of potential to be broken into, and added to. So I can't wait to see all the awesome comments. I love you guys. Until next time, I'm Jay Dreamer saying good vibes and goodbye.
So hard to fade away. I try so hard to fade away, but something's forcing me to stay.